Okay. So, as you know, City Clerk Study Hall here today. And we have heard kind of some hot topics come in. The questions that we have been receiving, as well as kind of seen popping up on ClerkNet, are about elections, the ever popular open meetings training requirements, your upcoming annual reports, and then we want to highlight some upcoming workshops and education opportunities, not just for you guys, but for the city officials that you have the pleasure of working with too. So we'll start off with elections. I have our regular city election schedule up here. Our primary friends, your first filing deadline has already come and gone. So hence why you're not included in this slide. But as I am sure you're aware, the legislature in 2014 changed the designation of who is to receive nomination papers to the county auditor. And then in 2016, they added an allowance for the county auditor to designate city clerks. So if you're not sure if you have been designated or not by your auditor, definitely contact them. That's very important, relevant information for you there. And they will be your partners throughout the election process anyway. So it's always good to have contact and kind of a point of reference with them. So the candidate filing deadlines for a regular city election are going to run through Thursday, September 18th at 5. An important note there is if you are a designated city clerk for receiving those nomination papers, you are required to be open and in the office until 5 p.m. that day. So if you have a different schedule or maybe staff members who overlap or kind of come and go, that is an important point just to remember and plan for, is to be there until 5 that day for sure. So when they drop that paperwork off with you, it'll include their nomination paperwork as well as their affidavit of candidacy. Your job is to collect those and take them over to your county auditor. So that nomination paperwork will need to include their information, which is laid out on the forms, and the forms are all available on the Secretary of State's website as well. So don't reinvent the wheel. It's still moving. It's doing well. So you have a reference point there for anything that maybe you have a question about, or if something doesn't look right, go ahead and pull up their website and just compare, make sure it's the same paperwork and that everybody is using the most up-to-date version. So that is kind of, again, September 18th is the big one there for those deadlines. And then there is a few more days in there, as you can see, until the September 23rd timeframe for someone who would like to withdraw. It's not on this slide, but something to keep in mind too is if you are putting anything out for a public referendum, make sure that you have also communicated with your county auditor about that, and have the resolution for what the wording will be for that. Overall, it's just a good practice to touch base with your county auditor and make sure that everybody's on the same page and knows what their role is. Because of the allowance for the county auditors to designate a city clerk if they would like, it is a county by county situation. So when in doubt, check it out. Much better to, have a phone call and feel like, oh yeah, I knew that, or I was right, than to get a phone call on September 19th and realize that you're in a pile of mess there. So those are kind of some general election guidelines there. Again, a really great resource is the Secretary of State's website. For our cities that have primary elections, those are going to be October 7th this year. And then regular city elections will take place November 4th. So those polls are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. In case you have people ask. But again, that information also available on the Secretary of State's website. So that is a place that you can direct people who have questions that maybe you're not sure about, or just for a good refresher. All right, everybody's favorite hot topic at the moment, the open meetings training requirement. This will continue to be relevant, especially with city elections coming up this year. A reminder, they have 90 days to satisfy that training from when they take their oath of office, or if they are fulfilling a vacancy. And sorry, stuttering this morning, but they have that time frame starts when they assume their official duties. So those are the two distinctions there. This is applicable to all newly elected or appointed officials after July 1st. So if someone is reelected here in November, they are not subject to the requirement. It will be a best practice to have them go ahead and take that training so that you have it on hand. That is a situation where, you know, consistency across everybody, probably a good idea to, if you have a certificate for one, have a certificate for all. So that's something to kind of tuck away in the back of your mind too. They don't have a deadline since the requirement doesn't technically apply to them. So definitely, if you have to make a decision on what to focus on, choose those newly appointed, newly elected individuals as the priority point there. There's obviously still a lot of questions coming out on, you know, does this apply to this or this? It applies to government bodies. That's what the legislature has said. And we're urging a best practice in line with IPIB's rulings of if there's ambiguity to rule in favor of openness. So if you're not sure and you can't find a reference point or a black and white answer, we would just urge you to go ahead and be safe and attend the training and have that in place and as an expectation. As of right now, we at the league have been approved as an additional trainer for this open meetings requirement. We are not planning to offer these trainings until November as a part of, November and then into December as a part of the Municipal Leadership Academy. So still giving IPIB time to kind of fine tune their process, and so we can learn from them as well. Plus just going into training season in general, that is when we have the capacity to get that introduced and do it in a way that will best serve everyone. So that is also a plug for if your city officials, elected or veterans come in. MLA is a really great training ground anyways for kind of government 101. This is how we do it. And now that open meetings training requirement will be included as a part of that. So keep that in mind. And then as I have on the slide, we have resources. So if you have questions or you just need to get a quick reference maybe to your council members, we do have a one-pager that you can just go ahead and hand out to whoever it might be relevant to in your organization. That's on our website. We have, you know, training guidance on what we've received from IPIB and an updated open meetings, open records guide. The table of contents I have a picture on the screen of here is from that open meetings, open records guide. So you can kind of get an idea of what content is in there. It's pretty brief and informational. So hopefully that is a medium that's digestible and easy to understand. But as always, if you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out. We are learning right alongside of you, and honestly, so is IPIB as well. So the more we can work together to make these things happen, the better off we'll all be. So I forgot to highlight IPIB's plan is to continue to host 2 online trainings a month for the foreseeable future, whatever that timeline is. So that will be something to also keep in mind. I know I'm giving you a lot of things to stuff into your brain that already has a lot going on, but that they have the 2 online trainings. The most recent information of that is going to be on IPIB's website, and that's also where you find all the registration for that. So a lot of their events, they have different timelines on when the registration for that opens. So probably a good idea to just check that frequently if you are anticipating needing that training to be done for individuals in your organization.
I just want to chime in quickly on that because we've had a lot of questions on this whole deal, both from like the legal side and then some like questions on the league becoming an approved trainer. And there's more to it than it sounds. So I just want to urge patience from everybody out there in Clerk land and cities in general. We definitely want to offer this training, but there is a requirement for the approved trainers to produce certificates of completion. So there's an administrative sort of burden that we're facing here that we got to get sorted out. So that's partly what Grace was talking about with like IPID taking the lead on sort of some of this behind the scenes stuff of what it takes to be an approved trainer, offer the training itself, and then making sure that the certificates are distributed properly, because then each governmental entity has a statutory requirement to preserve those certificates of any of your elected officials or board of commission members that do the training. You're required in the law to maintain those certificates and make those certificates available for public inspection. And so that's where there is a statutory requirement with just some of that administrative work that has to be done. And that's kind of the hang up right now. As many of you know, the league has offered open meetings and open records training for years. So it's not really the technical component of doing the training. It's making sure this administrative process is clean and something we can offer. So that's in the works. We'll be offering that soon. I also have had several questions or several cities ask, can we be a trainer? Can my city attorney be a trainer? Yes, I don't think there's any limitations on that. We just went through this process here recently. There's a kind of a procedural thing you got to follow through IPIB. I would just tell anyone locally interested in doing that as an approved trainer, just talk to IPIB. It's going to be the simplest thing. Just go to their website, talk to their staff. I don't imagine many of our cities are wanting to do this, but some of the larger cities might be wanting to handle it because they've got so many, mainly the board and commission side. Elected seats are kind of set in stone. And we have turnover there, obviously, with city elections coming up. But on the board and commission side, some of those larger cities have dozens of governmental bodies as boards and commissions that are going to be impacted by this as they recruit and appoint new people to those board and commission seats. So that's to where I think some of them are a little bit concerned of just making sure they've got opportunities to get those people in compliance with the law.
Alrighty. And, it's fall, which means Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming, but also report season. So, just a short list, as short as the list can be with the extent of all of the reports coming due here. November 1st will be one of your first deadlines with the unclaimed property report due. And then coming off of Thanksgiving, December is your time to shine. So at that point, the annual city financial report will be due to the state auditor, sorry, as well as TIF debt requirements will need to be certified to your county auditor. So again, a great opportunity coming up here soon to collaborate with your auditor anyways and start developing a relationship and maybe awareness of each other's roles with elections coming up as well. And then we also see the annual urban renewal report will be due December 1st. And we just want to note that that report does need previous council approval. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your timeline and your council meetings, especially since Thanksgiving might throw a wrinkle in there with when your council typically meets. So keep that in mind as something to plan for as well. And if you weren't already having a great time with reports, boy, the Iowa DOT street finance report is also going to be due through the Office of Local Systems. So a busy time report wise anyways. And then debt interest payments are due as well December 1st. So you have more than one responsibility, like or not reflective of the meme there, but with all the chaos and everything that comes with the time frame, we're here for you. We have financial individuals who have experience with these different reports. If you need assistance, reach out here to the league and we'd be happy to get you connected with somebody, as well as continuing to utilize your fellow city clerks and their experience. We see a lot of discussion in ClerkNet, and I think that that's always really encouraging to see people willing to jump in, and all of the emails of give me a call if you need help, all of those things. I think that that is really great just to see, and would encourage you guys to continue to build that community and network it through there as well. We're all better when we're together, and so just wanted to drop that plug in there. And then to keep up with all of the upcoming reports, there's also a lot of upcoming events. So some of these here are targeted towards city staff and some more towards city officials. So coming up here in just a couple of weeks, actually, is the league's annual conference. We're going to be in Des Moines this year, and that the dates for that are September 17th through 19th. You might have city officials who are already registered or who might be interested. So want to keep in mind that registration is still open for that if you would like to attend. And for those of you who are members of IMFOA, there are going to be credits available for those sessions. So keep an eye out for that too, to make sure you take advantage of that and get the most out of it. And then moving into November, just like it's busy for you guys, busy for the auditors, we're going to be out and about getting busy trying to help as many people as we can with the budget workshops. So just a quick 4-second overview. The budget workshops focus on completing the city budget forms, financial reporting and what is required of municipal governments, and then also projections of important revenues and expenditures, plus other topics that emerge and might be more on the forefront. So we do have those dates there on the slide, just to kind of for your awareness. Registration for those is not open yet, but we wanted to put it on your radar of if you're someone who's new and you want a better understanding of what is going on and what all these terms mean. It's a great opportunity to take advantage of that, as well as even if you're a veteran, getting a brush up, seeing what's coming new. So that's a resource that we have available, and that has some different dates there. So hopefully we are able to be available at some point for everybody's schedules. And then Municipal Leadership Academy, talked about that a little bit earlier in regards to that satisfying the open meetings training requirement. It will do that. And then other focuses are effective city councils. Who doesn't want your city council to be effective? Doesn't that sound like a dream come true? So we walk through the different roles, responsibilities, different terminology, as well as budget and finance processes and municipal operations. I think I mentioned earlier, it's kind of a government 101. So what this really is aiming to do is equip your elected officials who might have no government experience, which is totally fine, but give them an idea of what's going on behind the scenes. And so hopefully arm them with some information there to be able to make informed decisions, support staff, as well as understand everything that's going on behind the scenes to help keep the city moving forward and support that. So we really recommend that as an educational tool. You can see we have the dates there. Registration for that is also not available at this moment, but I just wanted to get the dates out there, have them in mind of maybe which location is closest to your community. And pending elections in November, you might have a crop of people who you're like, yeah, these people could use some background knowledge. So we provide that. City officials are completely welcome. City staff are welcome to that too, but it is targeted more towards your city officials. And then a little bit more training opportunities that the league wants to highlight. Coming up here in October is the Municipal Professionals Institute. MPI is virtual for the October session, and that's administered by the Iowa State Extension and Outreach Office. So more information, including like their classes, their agendas, and their registration is available on their website. And then IMFOA members are also invited to the fall conference coming up later in October. They also on their website have their registration open for that right now as well, and their agendas and speaker lists. So if you are interested, they have a lot of relevant topics to both city budgets as well as just city government in general. So definitely go ahead and check out, see what they have. It's a really good opportunity to get to know more of the people who are in the same field as you and doing the same work in the state. So you develop those relationships, professional and personal, for when you need assistance or, a shoulder to cry on during reporting season. But so we wanted to put those out there for your attention. All of these are on the website as well. And like I said, we don't have registration open yet. Lot of time obviously between now and then and a lot of variables, but wanted to put those on your radar. Once the registration is open for that, that'll go out in League Weekly for sure. So that is something to keep an eye out for. All right, that is what we have for you based off of questions we've seen come in. If you have any other questions, feel free to hit the Q&A. It looks like we do have one here. Trish, the commission member is currently serving. It has been serving prior to July 1st. The commissioner get appointed to a second commission. This appointment occurred after. Are they considered a new appointee and are required to attend the required IPIB training?
No, so IPIB actually did cover this in their ruling, or their board did, I should say, not ruling, their opinion, that basically said anyone who has served in a governmental body office, which obviously for cities would be like city council, but also your boards and commissions is considered a governmental body. So library boards, park boards, planning and zoning commissions, and so forth. If they served in a capacity before July 1, 2005, they're good, 2025, they're good to go. So if they were on a planning and zoning commission in June of this year, they stepped down from that role, but now they're going over to the park board in January of 2026. That does not make them a new member under this law. Obviously a new member to that park board. But in terms of compliance with this law, those types of folks are good to go. So as long as they were in a seat or office, as it may be, before July 1, they're good to go no matter what happens next. They run for council, they were on the park board, vice versa, whatever. They're fine. They do not have to take this training, the mandatory training. Should they? Can they? Of course they can. Should they? It's up to you all. It's up to the individual. It's a good idea, as we all know, but not statutorily required. Good question. We've had that one quite a bit. Thanks, Trish. Looks like we have one there from Wendy.
Yes.
And my eyesight, I'm getting old, folks.
Is the annual urban renewal
yeah.
report only for cities with TIF?
Yeah.
I gotcha.
What do you think? Putting Grace on the spot as she gets up to speed in her role here. Okay, so annual urban renewal report is for any urban renewal activity. Now, TIF is by far and away the most common type of urban renewal activity, but it's not the only type. In fact, you can have an urban renewal area designated within your city somewhere and not have a tax increment finance district within it. Now, again, that is by far and away the most common thing you will see, because you must have an urban renewal area created in order to have a TIF district within it, or multiple TIF districts. That can happen too, but it's not essential. It's not required by law. So there are cities out there that have an urban renewal area somewhere in town set up, but do not have TIF activity within it. They just have an urban renewal basis. They might plan to have TIF sometime down the road. They might not see a need for TIF, and they're just doing normal urban renewal type of work and projects within it, but not using TIF to help finance it, totally fine. But once you have an urban renewal area designated, you must file this annual report, okay, with or without TIF. So the real key is to check to see if you have an annual urban, or not annual, just an urban renewal area within your city. The easiest way to check, I mean, you should know this, especially if it's in most cases, cities set up urban renewal areas long ago, and previous city clerks and finance officers and city administrators likely had to file the AURR. And so you just basically take a look at last year's report, update it for this year, and off you go. If you created something new, though, within the last 12 months since the last report was filed, then you're going to have to either add on to an existing report or create a new one. Start from scratch. If your city never had urban renewal set up before, now it does. Now you have to get this report filed. So hopefully that helps, Wendy, but let us know if you have a follow-up. We had a couple other kind of one-off questions in the registrations that I wanted to address that we should address here, Grace.
Mhm.
One is on railroads. And basically the question is, I'm curious if the city can regulate when the railroad operates. And boy, that would be great. This is an area where way back when, I'm trying to remember some of the specifics now. It's too long ago. I'm getting old again. But basically, a city was having issues with one of the railroad companies on how loud they were. They wanted a quiet zone designation, which I'm not sure in some of your like City of Ames work. I'm sure you guys have quiet zones.
Yes, you do. Mhm.
Basically, though, as a city government, all you can do is ask. That's kind of like I remember being taught by some couple of attorneys here that worked at the league, Bruce Bergman and Terry Timmons, who were before they worked here at the league, they were city attorneys for many years. And basically they said railroads run everything. They have like some of the strongest federal state code protections you can think of for any types of businesses or landowners out there, which probably stretches back in the day, like the 1800s when railroads were taken over and through that development, they got a whole bunch of protections when it comes to their landowner rights and how they run their business, running the railroads through towns and the countryside and so on. And so the long and short of it is they have just extreme amounts of power within reason. Of course, there's some things they have to follow with warning signals and crossings and things like that, public safety type things. They also have to maintain the right of way. You can come out of railroad if they're not maintaining the right of way properly, just like you would any other landowner with nuisance property filings and so on. But in terms of their operation, as long as they're operating under federal law properly, you really can't come at them. You can't say you can only run through town at 10 a.m. or you can't come in at 10 a.m., whatever. No, you really can't. You can work with them. I think most railroads understand that local communities have events and festivals. That's probably what I've heard the most on. You also have nearby schools, things like that. And so I think they are approachable. And they are probably willing to adjust some of their schedules a little bit to conform to some of those local things. But I do stress a little bit. They're probably not going to make drastic changes to their schedules of when they're running cargo and so forth. So you can't force them. You really can't. You're going to have to work with them and just, plea to their sense of community to make changes to their schedules that might fit better for your town. What else do we have? Any other questions, folks? We always have our G-Works questions. I saw something on that. And this has come up in the past. And so some of you may have heard this with G-Works and really all the other financial software apps and providers. We're very limited at the league. G-Works was in our Community Alliance Partner Program. Our board decided to not renew them. We do it on a fiscal year annual basis. And so back in June, our board decided to not renew the partnership with G-Works because of the many issues I think our membership told us about in terms of their performance as well as the price increase that they put through and the switch to the cloud and some of those things. There was a lot of discussion on ClerkNet about it. I hope it's been resolved just mainly for our membership to have, so they have good service and a good solution when it comes to financial accounting and billing and so on. But again, our board decided to discontinue that partnership, or at least suspend, not renew it for this year. We'll see what happens. There are other providers out there that are fairly commonly used. I'm sure you guys can figure those out or go back and ClearNet and figure out maybe some good options. I would say it's like anything in the IT and tech space where I don't know if there's anything that's perfect, folks. I just, don't let perfect get in the way of good. And that's not to defend GWorks by any means, because again, they had a lot of issues that we heard from our membership. But I think some of the same issues have cropped up with some of those other providers where some of them are quite expensive and they don't do everything just the way you want them to. That's just kind of the world we live in with all sorts of tech and software solutions, so it's not ideal by any means. But in terms of what the league can do for you, we are going to probably vet different providers. So I think it's important for us to be able to put forward a good solution. But again, as I just saying, any of the other ones probably have their own issues that our members have experienced. So I don't know if our board's really motivated to say like, this is the number one provider when it comes to financial software, when it, accounting and payroll and billing, all those good things. So, there's no news to report there. Other than this, we commiserate with you. We have our own software issues at the league as well. Some of the providers that we've worked with in the past or still do, it's never perfect. So, that's all I can really say about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Another one here, dealing with a council member who comes to the office and makes personal attacks on the character of fellow council members and staff. How do I handle this? I want to remain professional. Obviously, that's the number one thing is be professional at all times. You already appointed staff. As much as you take in some of these situations, and what I'll be perfectly honest, some council members know that you really can't fight back. Like, unless it goes too far, then you can. But like in general, these are your bosses, and they're the elected officials. You're just gonna have to live with it to a certain extent. Obviously, when things get into the path of harassment, hostile work environment, that triggers a whole other path. And then that's even to the point where sometimes I've had to talk to city officials, city manager, city clerks, some of those folks in the key positions that tend to get the brunt of a bad council member's behavior, where they've had to hire a personal attorney and even either threaten or actually file a lawsuit against the city due to a hostile work environment or harassment or stalking even, which is extreme. I don't want anyone to think that's like natural or normal. That should never be normal. We should never put up with that. But working in city government is always going to be awkward because of this fact that we have elected officials who are almost bulletproof in the sense that they're elected. They're not appointed staff that you can discipline them, you can suspend them, you can terminate them like you can an employee. With elected officials, basically short of being convicted of a felony, you're going to have a really hard time forcing them out of office. They can voluntarily resign. And I've seen that happen where you've got that council member who's misbehaving either publicly with citizens and or with staff or other council members. And there's basically a resignation campaign that happens where the public and the other council members, as their elected peers, say, we don't condone this behavior. We want you to resign your seat. It's up to them. It's a voluntarily resignation type of thing. But that can happen. For you personally, as a staff member, what I always say, those first and foremost, document everything. Document your conversations, document the issues you've experienced, document the issues others have experienced that you're aware of. Share those with the mayor and the other council members, share them with the city attorney first and foremost. The city attorney needs to be notified when it gets to that level. I mean, again, if there's some council member just grumpy every day, okay, you're gonna have to live with that. Not everyone's gonna treat you with 100% respect. And there's nothing illegal about that. They're jerks. Okay, there's jerks in the world. Sucks. But when it gets past that, where it starts interfering with your work and there's name calling, there's personal attacks happening, like it sounds like here, that's when document. Okay, because you never know what's going to happen next, and you never know when it goes beyond the pale and it is turning into more like harassment, right? So the city attorney needs to be notified. The other elected officials need to be notified. If you're worried about your personal security, this is again where it starts getting into a whole other world. Again, document everything, notify the right people, then you need to talk to law enforcement. So in the larger cities that have a police department, obviously you got to file a report, which is weird. I get it. It's with your own police department, but file a report. You got to get the documented with the proper authorities. If you're in a smaller city, probably the county sheriff's office is going to be your law enforcement that needs to be notified of this. So it's always kind of like layers or a spectrum of where things stand. It's always hard to tell, like personal attacks. Again, is this like someone just made light of somebody? It's like bordering on harassment, or like they fully just went after you, right? And they made things really awkward, or a fellow council member made verbal threats, threats of violence. That's where it's like, no, we're not. This is not something you just shrug off and look the other way. This is now needs to be reported. Okay. So hopefully that kind of summarizes the general response you should do in those situations. But again, if you have a specific follow-up, we're always happy to help with that.
I'll read this for you.
Okay.
I'm going to be at the league conference 9/18, last day of filing. Is it okay if my deputy stays until 5 in our office, even though they're not the filing officer?
Yeah. So first of all, we apologize.
Yeah.
We try to avoid this when we plan out our annual conference, but it's always almost impossible for a couple of factors. One is that we plan these out, the conference, 5 years in advance. And when we do that, we're kind of beholden to wherever we have a committee with our board that helps us approve where we go. And it's always kind of 5 years out where we're looking and planning. So they approve it, but these locations that they select only have certain windows in September that we have to fit our conference into. Normally it works out. We don't have this issue, but every now and then we do. So again, I apologize, or we just couldn't make the schedules work with the conference. And we know that we're going to have some cities that are looking at the filing deadline and have a conflict. Now, if you are one of those designated cities, and the county auditor has designated you, I don't think you're statutorily required for the city clerk, him or herself, to be physically in the office until 5 p.m. So you could get another city employee or another city official to handle that. I would definitely notify the county auditor, though, of the plan, just so they're aware, because they'll probably want to do a quick training overview with whoever that person is, which is very simple. And if you've done this in the past, it's basically just sitting there and waiting for anyone to come in with nomination papers. You're not, as a city clerk or designee, required to verify or vet those nomination papers. That is the county auditor's job, right? You don't have to look at the nomination forms and make sure the information is correct, make sure the signatures are valid. That's the county's job. The job is basically, if you are one of those designated city clerks, take the nomination papers, deliver them to the county the next day. That's it. If there's questions over the validity, the accuracy, blah, 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 that's the county's job. And any citizens that comes in and says, well, that signature is Donald Duck. Okay, fine. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The county auditor is going to review that and issue a ruling. It's not the city clerk's job. You're not the county commissioner of elections. The county auditor is. So I would just, again, verify with the county auditor of your plan, make sure it's all good. It should be fine. Some county auditors are a little tougher to work with than others, and just explain the rationale. I'm guessing they'll be fine with it because, again, the job itself is quite simple. You just have to have City Hall open, as Grace said, till 5 p.m. and then deliver those, whatever you get, the next day to the county auditor. More questions. We got plenty of time, folks. Fire away. On the elections, I might as well bring something up and probably generate some questions. And so the other thing that's going to happen, because right now this is all the candidate filing period. And that ends here soon, whatever dates you had posted.
September 18th.
September 8th. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. September 18th. So that kind of is like the next line in the sand, so to speak. Then we get into kind of campaign season. Now we know who's running. It's going to be campaigns. So a few things that always come up that I'll just address here while we have some time. Can our city host a candidate forum? Like City Hall? Yes, you can, even for non or for partisan. Well, city government's nonpartisan, so it's even easier to answer yes to. But even for like next year, when there's partisan elections during the general election, yes, it's a public facility. In some cases, especially in rural Iowa, the city hall is the only public facility within 20 miles or something like that. And so it's natural for candidates and political parties when it's a partisan election to look to a city hall to host a candidate forum or host a meet and greet with a candidate. Totally fine. It is lawful. And so the only thing that we say is just be consistent, especially when it comes to the partisan stuff. Just be open. If you say yes to the Republican candidate, you got to say yes to the Democrat or the independent or whoever. And then for local elections, city elections, I get where in some cities, like there's kind of an awkwardness to it because like this is going to be your bosses. And so as city clerk or city staff, you're like, I don't want to be appear to be, favoring or working easier or working closer with this candidate for council or mayor, but not this candidate for council. So I get that. So just same deal, just be consistent. If you're going to host a forum of some sort, just make sure all of the candidates are aware of that they're invited equally and consistently. Sometimes they don't show up. Sometimes you have uncontested races, as you all know. And so it's just whatever you do, just make sure it's fair and consistent for all involved. That's the simplest advice we can give for that. Not every city does that. Not a lot of cities have candidate forums, but I know some of you do. And so it's natural that like City Hall is where everyone's thinking that should be done. The answer is yes, legally speaking, yes. Just be fair. Just make sure it's always fair, that you're never favoring one person or one issue. And that leads me to the next thing, which there is a strict law that city governments, the city government itself can never use money, resources, materials, time, or anything like that for political purposes. So you can never use any of those things to encourage people to vote a certain way, whether that's for a candidate for office or a public referendum, which is probably the area where we have a little more concern with cities that do like public referendums for general obligation bonds, local option sales tax questions. Just got to be very careful to be informative. You can definitely inform your public of the upcoming referendum and the upcoming election. You could just never use any materials, any notices, anything like that that says vote yes or vote for re-elect the mayor. Like never use public city resources for that stuff. Okay. Informative, yes. Just never encourage support or opposition, politically speaking. And same with your elected officials. This is another thing that comes up with mayors and council members because they're in campaign mode. They just have to be very careful to do all of their campaigning on their own time and their own dime, right? They cannot use their city office or city resources to campaign for themselves or for, again, a public referendum issue and so on. They just got to draw that line. Just never use city resources for political purposes.
Okay.
Question there.
Yep. Just confirming that a city may not need to be in charge of election paperwork. I believe our county takes care of everything. Yes, so it is entirely possible that your county auditor does all of that and has not designated a city clerk or other individual. We would again just encourage you to call and verify. It's always good to have a touch base with the county auditor as well, with how much some things do overlap, but it is entirely possible that yes, your county auditor did not kick that back to you. So, you might be correct, you might not. So since it's so dependent by county, we would really encourage you to reach out to your auditor and just verify one way or the other to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, and just remember that is the default. The
Mhm.
default in state code, this was that switch that Grace mentioned before in 2014.
Yep.
Where it used to be city clerks and city halls were like part of the apparatus, so to speak. And you were required flat out to accept nomination papers, be up until 5 o'clock, all that fun stuff. Then it switched to the counties with the ability to like deputize city clerks to receive them. But the default is the county. So there are plenty of counties where the county auditor doesn't do that. They don't designate city clerks to receive them. I mean, if I was a city clerk, that's how I would want it, but I know there's some city clerks who like to receive those papers. So they know what's going on and they can, and work with local candidates and inform them in a more direct fashion, totally fine. Just again, underscoring the fact that it goes through the county auditor.
Mhm.
One more thing to follow up on elections, because we get campaign season, filing season, then it's campaign season, then the elections happen. So a couple notes on that, and we'll have information on this, as Grace said, we'll continue to pump stuff out through Leak Weekly. It's on our website, a lot of great information in there. The election results themselves are canvassed by the county. The city doesn't have a role in there. Unless there's some crazy stuff happens and there's a typo, then and you have to, or there's an election contest. Don't even worry about that. It's very rare. But if there is a contest, the city does have a role to play. But normally there's a county canvas board. They certify all the election results within, I believe, a week. They give them under state law to get those results certified. Then you know who's won your local elections for your city. And then we do what? We have to do the oath of office, right? And that must be done by the first day in January that is not a Sunday or a legal holiday, which is almost always January 2nd. So, and it's by noon. By noon on January 2nd, you've got to get anybody elected, including folks reelected, to take the oath of office. Okay, so you have from like November 11th-ish, somewhere in there, through January 2nd at noon to get the oath of office done for anyone who won an elective seat on November 4th. The oath of office is prescribed by the state code. It's a simple paragraph. You just read it word for word, insert the person's name. The oath of office itself, get this question all the time. Does it have to be done at City Hall? Does it have to be done at a council meeting? No and no. It can be done anywhere, anytime. Okay. It is very common that cities use a city council meeting and kind of do a formal oath of office, take photos, have the family there. That's wonderful. I think it's a great idea. Celebrate the occurrence, and that's a great idea. But I know plenty of others that don't do all that. They just simply get it done because it's got to be done. I've heard of clerks doing the oath of office in the winner's garage, their backyard, at the park, City Hall parking lot, whatever. You just got to get it done. Okay. The clerk can administer the oath, the mayor can administer the oath, any officer of the court. So a district court judge can administer the oath, the governor can administer the oath. Supreme Court judges can administer the oath. So there's a lot of options, and locally it's going to be the clerk in almost every case. So that's always a big question that comes up. Just remember, after the election results are certified, you've got about 6 weeks or so to get that oath of office done. The other one that always comes up is public official bonding. So there's the mayor must be bonded, but basically means errors on omissions. There's like an insurance policy that says the city must take out a bond to protect the city against errors and omissions, and it identifies specifically the mayor and then anyone who has the power to disperse city funds. So for most of our cities, it's going to be the mayor and the city clerk, and that's it. Larger cities probably have to get the city manager in there, finance officer, and that's probably covers the larger cities for the most part. Most cities get that bond done through their liability insurance coverage. Double check that, especially if you're newer. Just make sure You don't have to name the individuals, you just have to name the position that is covered, and you'll be good to go. But that's also required. But sometimes we got new mayors, sometimes we got new clerks, so you just got to make sure that everything's looking good. So those are the big election things that we always kind of go through. There's another stuff that happens here more in recent years that's come up more and more, sadly, which is what happens if no one runs for office. What happens if we have a completely uncontested seat? And in that scenario, which again, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope there's enough interest locally, but I know it's kind of been a growing issue in a lot of our communities where we just get no one to run. So the first thing that happens after that is write-in winners. Okay, so that if someone, even with, I've heard as little as four people wrote in their neighbor or their pal at the bar. And that guy or gal won. And that's all it took. Now that's not common, but that can happen. And that's the write-in winner. That's it. If nobody runs and nobody's written in, basically you treat that seat as a vacant council seat. So from that point forward, the folks on the council can treat it like a vacant council seat and appoint somebody to fill it. If they can't find anybody to do that, then the only other alternative after 60 days is to hold a special election, which I would dearly hope that does not happen, because the city has to pay for a special election in that scenario. So I don't want that to happen, but it's more of just as we're going through candidate filing period, we always get the questions here in a few weeks where it's like, nobody submitted their name. What do we do? We're freaking out. Like, well, now you're left with waiting to see if somebody is written in, but you won't know until November.
Does the 60 days start on election day, or does it start on when results are certified?
Day of the vacancy, which in that unique scenario would be the day the results are certified. That's when they'll declare that no one ran for office, no one was written in on the ballot. It's now a vacancy. So it'd be 60 days from that day, you get notice from the county on the election results. Good question.
Yeah.
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 Firing all cylinders this morning.
Oh. Sure.
Other questions? Going once?
Friends don't want to talk to us today.
We should also recognize, was that last week? The Grace's first of all, we should recognize Grace's marriage. Let's give some.
Thank you.
I was gonna say something else first. Grace got married, about a month ago to the day? Almost to the day?
Almost to the day. Yep.
So it's very happy times, and we salute and congratulate Grace and her husband Jordan.
Yep. Made it a month as of yesterday. Yeah. So, we still love each other. I think that's a good sign. So
very exciting. And then also exciting is Grace's hero, Taylor Swift, has got engaged. It's also true. My daughter and my wife's hero. So it's been a very joyous occasion.
Yep.
So her and Travis Kelce, I'm sure many of you saw that. And
yes. I was texting Mickey as fast as I possibly could, and I looked at the message after I sent it and realized I apparently don't know how to spell when I'm excited. Yeah. So it was all thumbs and all caps, but I had to let him know that the monumental occasion finally happened. Yes.
Very cute.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a thrilling day. My wife texted me literally is this I'm so happy for her. And the way she phrased it was like her friend had just got engaged after all these issues with their love life. And it's just that's the connection she has with her family. It's pretty incredible. So anyways, just wanted to recognize that.
Yep. Go Tay-Tay.
Or somebody who's probably congratulating you.
So some hearts.
Exactly.
Thank you. Are they for me? Are they for Taylor? The world may never know.
You guys are in the same boat.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, we will be excited to see any of you come to the conference here in a couple of weeks here in Des Moines. We're very excited. We've got to quickly pivot back to that. We still got some work to do to get ready for that conference, but we're getting there. But we're very excited. It's going to be a great time. And then anyone else that we don't catch, we might see you in October. IMFOA will be over there. Grace and I have a presentation and we'll just be there to have fun with you all anyways.
Mhm.
So looking forward to that. And then as Grace mentioned, we go right into all of our fall training. So it's a busy time, but it's one of the great times of the year for us, just getting out and seeing our members. So we look forward to seeing you all soon.
Mhm. If you want to hang out with us, you have the training dates, so
Yep.
pick,
Know where we'll be.
yep, pick your poison, we'll be there, so. All right, doesn't look like we have any other questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop our recording and let you guys have an extra 3 minutes. You can thank me later. But yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for sending us your questions. Keep doing that. Keep reaching out if you have anything. We're here and we're happy to help. So you guys have a safe fall here going into all the things. And for my football fans out there, roll clones. It's a big weekend. But yeah, that's what we have for you today. And if any of this prompted another question, go ahead and reach out and we're happy to chat. So thank you guys.